Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for chapter 22 and 23. Chapter 22, Baseball and Braiding. Before bed on Sunday night, Janie always took a shower and washed her hair. Lately, she'd been weaving it into 6 braids while it was still damp so that she could have wavy hair in the morning. Janie's hair was usually stick straight like Dad's and Bat's, though hers was a dark brown instead of black. When she came out of the bathroom in her pajamas carrying a wide tooth comb and 6 hair ties, Bat asked, "Can I braid it?" "I can do it myself," Janie said. "Let him try," Dad said from the couch, where he sat watching baseball on TV. He had an orange and black baseball cap on his head because tonight he was rooting for the Orioles. He had a collection of caps for all the teams he liked, and whenever one of his teams was playing, he'd select the right baseball cap from the top shelf in his closet and wear it for the whole game. Dad said he didn't believe in luck, but it sort of seemed like he did. "Okay," said Janie, "but if you mess up the braids, I'm going to redo them." She sat cross-legged on the floor facing the TV. Bat sat behind her on the couch next to Dad. Janie handed him the comb. Bat started combing at the bottom, the way Janie had taught him, so he wouldn't pull her hair. He worked out all the little tangles with the teeth of the comb as he made his way up towards the top of her head. Soon he could pull the comb straight through her hair from the very top to the ends without snagging at all. Then he divided her hair into 6 sections, 2 in the front, 2 in the middle, and 2 in the back. The 2 back sections looked a little thicker than the others, but Bat didn't think Janie would notice. He picked up the front left section of her hair and started braiding. "Go, go, go!" Dad yelled at the TV. One of the baseball players had made a good hit and was running as fast as he could around the bases. "I think baseball is the most boring game you watch," Janie said. "Even more boring than football." "That's because you won't let me explain it to you," Dad said, adjusting his cap. "If you understand the game, it's fascinating." Bat reached the bottom of the first section of hair and wound a pink elastic band around its end. The braid wasn't perfectly neat and straight like the braids Janie did, but it wasn't bad. Moving on to the other section, Bat focused on making the second braid even better than the first. "Make sure you're braiding it tight," Janie said, "so it's really wavy." "I am," Bat said. Bat loved braiding Janie's hair, even though he usually wasn't very good at hand things. He liked the feeling of the damp, heavy hair. He liked organizing it into a series of smaller, neatly contained braids. He liked feeling close to Janie like this, by helping her and touching her without having to have a big conversation that might turn into a fight. Getting along with people was hard for Bat. Figuring out what they meant when they said something or when they made certain faces at him, people were complicated. But braiding was easy. There, he finished the second braid and wrapped the end of this one in a dark green elastic. Janie reached up and touched the braid, then pulled it in front of her face so she could see. "Not bad," she said. "Yes!" yelled Dad. He stood up from the couch, grabbing the cap from his head and waving it around. It wasn't the same as being at home. Mom wasn't here. Thor wasn't here. But maybe every other weekends could be okay. End of the chapter. Chapter 23, Windows. Some days, Bat was the first person awake. It didn't happen often because Mom was a morning person. Usually when Bat woke up, he went straight into the kitchen to find Mom sitting at the table with a cup of coffee and a book. But every now and then, Bat awoke to a completely quiet house, a sleeping house. Tuesday was one of those mornings. Bat woke up suddenly and completely to a still, dark sky outside his window. He blinked and sat up, slipped his feet into his slippers, took the skunk sling from the doorknob where he hung it the night before, and went into the living room. The living room windows faced the front yard. Bat could make out the shape of the big oak tree on the lawn. It was a darker shadow against the velvety early morning sky. He went straight to Thor's enclosure and found the kit tucked in his sleeping corner, surrounded by the rice-filled socks that made a nice padded nook. He stroked Thor's back, feeling the rise and fall of his sleeping breasts before gently scooping him up. Thor let out a little high-pitched yawning sound, his tiny paw swimming through the air as Bat settled him onto the sling. Once inside, Thor wrestled around for a moment before quietly back down. In the kitchen, Bat opened the refrigerator as quietly as he could and retrieved the formula. He filled a syringe and held it under a stream of hot water to warm it up. Thor could smell the formula. Bat could tell because he wiggled around in his pouch. "It's coming, little guy," Bat said. When the formula was warm, he went back into the living room and curled up on the window bench. Already the sky was changing. It was still dark, but now Bat could make out the branches of the tree. He heard the very earliest morning birds, the ones that sang each day as the sky began to lighten. Gently, Bat reached into the pocket and pulled out the skunk kit. It was too dark to see clearly, but Bat didn't want to startle him by turning on a lamp, so he brought the syringe down to Thor's face and let the skunk find the tip by spell. As Thor had his breakfast, the sky turned violet and pink, then orangey red. The tree's trunk lightened from black to brown, and its leaves transformed to green. The first birds called louder, waking up their friends, and they became a chorus of song. Bat looked down to see if Thor had finished his formula and gasped in surprise. The two tight slits that had been closed since Mom first brought him home were open. Bat could see Thor's eyes. They were the darkest black Bat had ever seen. "Hey there," Bat cooed down at Thor. "Good morning, little kit." Thor kept licking at the tip of the syringe, but his quick pink tongue hesitated just a bit when Bat spoke. Maybe he was listening. Maybe he understood. Bat stroked back at the soft black and white fuzz on Thor's little forehead. "I see you," he said. "Do you see me?" Mom emerged from her bedroom, tying the belt of her robe. "Bat," she said, "you're up early." "Mom," Bat said, "look! Thor's eyes are open." Mom came over to see. "Look at that," she said, resting her hand on the top of Bat's head and petting his hair just as Bat stroked Thor. "His eyes are beautiful, Mom," Bat said. "Don't you think his eyes are beautiful?" Mom sat down on the window seat next to Bat. "I think that's the first time I've ever heard you mention someone's eyes," she said. "Most eyes are boring," Bat said, "but Thor's eyes are amazing. Look, they are the color of outer space. They're open." "Bat," Mom said, "what color are my eyes?" "Brown," Bat answered, still staring at the skunk kit. Droplets of formula hung from the little black and white hairs all around his mouth. "Nope," said Mom, "they're hazel." This got Bat's attention. "Really?" He looked up and stared at Mom's face. Her eyes were golden brown with little flecks of green and yellow in them. "They look like marbles," Bat said. "I never noticed." "Well, you never have been all that interested in people's eyes." Bat shrugged. "I never thought about it," he said. "Some people say you can tell a lot about a person by looking into their eyes," Mom said. "What do you think about that?" Bat thought about it. "I don't get it," he said. "If I want to know something about a person, I ask. If I think you can tell more about people from what they say from their eyes." Said Mom. "You have an interesting way of seeing the world, Bat." Bat stared deep into Thor's space black eyes. He tried to see what he could learn from them. He looked first into the left eye, and then into the right, and then back to the left again. "It's hard to look into two eyes at the same time," he said. "Which one am I supposed to look in?" "I don't think it matters. Try looking into my eyes," Mom said, "and see what you can learn about me." Bat tucked Thor back into the pouch. Mom took the syringe and set it down. She took Bat's hands into hers and smiled. Bat smiled back, and they tried to see what Mom's eyes could tell him. The left eye had 3 more flecks of green than the right eye. The right eye had 1 more fleck of yellow. The black points in the middle were exactly the same size. Her eyes were shiny. "Hazel is cool," Bat said. "It's like a rainbow of all the boring colors." "Funny, Bat," Mom said. "Do you know what I see when I look into your eyes?" "Brown and black," Bat said, "with white all around." "Yes," said Mom, "I do see that. But I also see your sweetness and your thoughtful nature and your busy, busy mind." Bat looked away. It was uncomfortable to let anyone look into his eyes for too long. It made him feel kind of itchy and shy. "You can tell all that by looking in my eyes?" "Yes," she said. She leaned forward and kissed Bat's forehead. "I see all of that and more." I hope that you enjoyed reading with me. Thank you.